AI-focused event, and a couple of housekeeping. Anybody who wants to network or talk, do that all you want, but you're gonna have to go downstairs. So for the next 45 minutes to an hour, we're gonna ask you to please do not talk, focus on the panel. By the bar, please shh. If you wanna talk, go downstairs. Because we got a pretty killer panel lined up here, some amazing talent. They're gonna bust out some phenomenal information about how to use AI to help grow your business. Me and Greg worked our butts off to get these guys and lady up on the stage here, so we want to make sure you give them their full respect and their attention. But like I said, if you want to network and talk, go downstairs, talk all you want for the next hour. But then come back up at 8 o'clock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop berating everybody here and hand the microphone to my buddy Ray, who's going to be the MC for the night. And then Rob will kick it off with our event. So without further ado, I'm Tony P, this is Ray P.
Hello everybody. All right, thanks first of all to Tony and Greg for including me in this first AI event for Tony P networking events. When we initially started this project, I had really positive and optimistic views of AI. And there's a lot of things to be happy about and optimistic with regards to this technology. Goldman Sachs, back in April, projected up to $7 trillion in global GDP growth over the next 10 years. That's a lot of cash. And also this morning, Ed Yardeni of Yardeni Research projected basically for the rest of the decade, the roaring 2020s. So his point of view is that at the end of the decade, we're going to look back and say, well, the decade started off really rough, but due to AI, automation, robotics, and also quantum computing, that the growth will be spectacular for the rest of the decade. So early on this month, I thought, hey, why don't we actually videotape this particular panel? I think it's going to be a great panel, and I was ready to tell Tony, hey, let's do this. Well, during a couple of the Tony P events this month, Tony was good enough to introduce me to a few super users, power users of AI. I see a few of them right now. And initially, those conversations were also very positive. The adoption of AI tools for productivity is just amazing. It's rampant and it's growing really fast. So I was very positive about it. And then the conversation got dark. And we started talking about voice cloning. We started talking about facial recognition. We started talking about how passwords today are probably obsolete. And there's also a development where over 100,000 ChatGPT accounts can be bought off the dark web. And now I wonder, should we be videotaping anything at this point? And that's a big question. So I'm not going to answer that question right now. There's a lot of work to do in the area of ethics and morals and legislation and legal. For now, I want you to enjoy this first panel on ChatGPT. I'm going to give the mic to Rob.
Just so you know, we got prime seating right up front here. So anybody who doesn't want to stand for the next 45 minutes, you got front row seating for you, so somebody claim these spots. Actually, there's one more up here too. So, in case you don't want to stand, it's nice to sit on a couch. And here is Rob Johnson.
Tony P, thanks a lot. Everybody, great to be with you here tonight at Hubbard Inn. And I know about a month ago when Tony said, I think we're going to do an AI panel. I like doing the panel discussions in general. And this was a great opportunity to talk about something that everybody cares about, to talk about something that is changing right before our eyes on a weekly basis, and something that if you don't know more about it, if you're not learning as much as you can, then you're going to get left behind. I've spent the last 4 years being a strategic advisor for Tony P's networking events with Tony and Greg. Prior to that, I spent 25 years in television here in Chicago. I much prefer this lifestyle and getting to hang out with you all and getting to meet interesting people like this. And for as much as I like the sound of my own voice, I'm going to introduce you to the panel, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
So my name is James Feldman. I'm called the Nowist because if you don't do it now, you have no future. That's what a futurist talks about. They don't know anything about now. Now is ChatGPT and AI. And let me make this very, very clear. People are worried about losing their jobs to AI. Not going to happen. You're going to lose your job to someone who's using AI and ChatGPT and everything else. I understand people get nervous about it, but you have no choice. This is more disruptive than the internet. I'm Jim Feldman, I'm the Nowist, and I'll be back to you shortly.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Biscelli. I've been an entrepreneur since 2009. I have 3 businesses. They all kind of play off of each other. But we've been using AI and ChatGPT since last November. So I have a cybersecurity consultancy where we use AI and the tools to help get cyber, whatever, to prevent breach. And then I have a telehealth business called Care Vitality, which not only do we use ChatGPT to help grow the business and do the marketing and the website and drop our pages down on Google, which has worked tremendously and has cut down our time by 75% that we need to use because of these tools. I also developed a telehealth platform that will be released on August 23rd that will have AI enabled in it. So we do development, so if people here have any ideas that are part of their software that they're looking to develop or have something currently that they think could utilize AI, you can always bounce that off of me, or you can talk to somebody on my development team, because that's the future. So we use a lot of efficiencies in that we'll talk about later.
Hello. My name is Martez Knox. I am founder and CEO of BakeBot.ai. We are building AI dispensary platform for cannabis operators. We're building models that will allow these operators to train the models on their own data, and they'll be able to deploy these models and use it in various different ways. So BakeBot.ai is our feature set that is sort of showing these operators what's possible with our AI tools. Looking forward to talking about ChatGPT and some of these other technologies and large language models. Very, very passionate about AI. And I always tell folks, if you aren't utilizing AI, you're probably going to find yourself on the other side of the spectrum in the next year or two. So now is the time to get on board. And we build AI tools. Right now, we're looking at the cannabis industry, but our goal is to roll out these models across different industries, right? So if you're interested in AI and you're looking at a model and you want to do something similar, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I think Tony has all my data somewhere. And thank you. Looking forward to it.
Hey everybody, my name is Alan Stern. I own a company called Persona Marketing, where I show salespeople and small businesses do-it-yourself marketing for social media, leveraging AI so they don't have to pay a company on retainer to do it for them. In doing so, I show you how to combine humor and education-based marketing that allows you to show your personality in your marketing, because people do not buy from brands, they buy from people who represent brands. Prior to that, my background is about 12 and a half years in the car business, and I've owned a DJ company for about 16 years. And grateful for the opportunity to be here with you today. I'm going to show you some really simple, tactical ways that you can start using right now so you can start attracting business using ChatGPT. So thank you all for being here.
Very nice, very nice.
Vanessa, I want to start with you. This is 101. I understand it. I know there's some people in here that know a lot about it. I know there's some people in here that don't understand a lot about it. And I want to start with pretty basic information. So, Vanessa, how do you use ChatGPT, AI, more in general, and how has it benefited you?
Well, thank you. So, let's start with ChatGPT. So, before we started using ChatGPT to write a blog, to be optimized 100% correctly on Google, it would take 12 hours because you have to write it strategically. Once we started using ChatGPT, we utilize the questions and things that people would ask that we utilize with a specific marketing tool that we use. We put it into ChatGPT, the answers. The answers are not 100%, so you always need to revise them. You should be the expert, because you usually have to revise them 80 to they're usually good about 80 to 85% of the time. There's about 15% of tweak. But by doing this, the 12 hours that it would take to optimize a blog, which is industry standard, even the marketing firm we were using at the time, now we've taken it in-house because of ChatGPT, has taken us from 12 hours to 4 hours. So I have my assistant work on it, and then I have another nurse now working with it, and then they do it, and I don't even have to do the 4 hours. But the point was, using ChatGPT, you get the information, you review it, you revise it, and then actually those blogs are even better. Right away, they're 100% optimized. You just got to revise the questions, revise the answers. So that has helped tremendously. We also did that to go through the website pages. Basically, we found the keywords that we wanted to be searched for at Google. We streamed those through the existing web pages that we wanted to be placed, and we were able to figure out what additional questions we can do to rank that page at 100%. So the whole site of Care Vitality, for all the pages we care about, are basically 100% optimized. And then the blogs now is significant because in March, not only did I do 7 page optimizations, I did 12 blogs. And not only did we do the 12, and I helped with that one, because now I hand it all off, because I realized the power of this. And not only did I do that, I was doing website development with India every day for 4 to 8 hours. So now the amount of content I was able to generate with ChatGPT to be able to push out there. And then when that stuff got registered on Google, which it takes about 3 months or so for that to come down, our whole company with all the 900 and some keywords that we rank for dropped down from a page, like on Google, just because of that. So I think that's powerful. So that's how we use it there. Then in the software, we do telehealth is a broad term. So there's telemedicine, there's remote monitoring that you see the diabetes monitors and blood pressure cuffs, and then chronic care management where you have care teams. So what we are doing with that is we're embedding AI into the platform for things such as the remote patient monitoring. So it helps us make sure that when we're getting the device information from the patient, it triggers us if it's not coming in. So we don't have to call out. The system thinks for itself. It triggers to the patient through SMS or email that a reading has been missed. And then we use it in other parts of the application to speed up the process, to automate things so that people don't have to be doing that work and creating alerts to our nurses. So it's just powerful, saves time, and you have to use these tools to help get ahead, because if you don't do them, other people are doing them out there that are your competitors. Oh, who am I heading to?
Martez, let me ask you a question, and this is another more basic question, then we'll get into more specifics, but how can ChatGPT in particular and AI in general, because I know a lot of these people that are on the panel here are ChatGPT aficionados, and even though some of them have others of these AI issues mastered, what does it do to solve the business problems? We have a lot of business people here in the audience. What can it do to help you solve your business problem? They may be like, hey, that's great, it's helping me with content. A lot of people are content producers, not everybody is. But how can it help solve the business problems that maybe some of these folks are facing?
Great question. And this is a really good one that I think a lot of folks don't really necessarily think about beyond generative AI, right? So let's say you're in a situation where you have a bunch of point of sale data, right? And you want to know what is my sales going to look like 6 months from now, right? Or maybe you want to look back and kind of, say what happened last Christmas on December 25th, right? Which product was the #1 seller so that I can prepare, right, for this upcoming Christmas. There are technologies that are coming along, particularly with BigBot.ai. This is something that we'll be rolling out in the next couple of weeks, where you'll be able to upload that POS data or any Excel data, right, any CSV data, or any data in a PDF form. And you'll be able to ask BigBot. But this is not something that's necessarily exclusive to us, right? But you'll be able to actually ask BigBot specifically make sense of this data, right? So we're talking, huge spreadsheets, gigabytes necessarily worth of data that a human being would never be able to spot key trends and some of the other stuff that's happening with this data. So I think as business owners, one of the things that you should be looking to do is figure out how you can better utilize that data, right? Every day we work, right? We go to work, we develop tons of data, whether it's our marketing team, our finance team. Well, that's kind of a simple way. Another way that I would offer up for you guys to consider is building your own models, right? So be AI proactive about this, right? There are some reservations about sharing your data with organizations like a ChatGPT, right? Because whether you want to believe it or not, your competitors are also using the same data that you provide for ChatGPT. So I would also urge anybody in this space that's generating tons of data to begin looking at building your own models and training your own models, right? So you can better understand what's inside the black box, right? Right now, we go to ChatGPT, we have no idea what the data has been trained on. And if it happens to hallucinate for you at the wrong time, that can be totally unfortunate, right? Now, if you're training the model, a base model, a foundational model on your own data, if it does happen to hallucinate, right, you can be sure that it won't get too far away from home, right? Whereas with ChatGPT, it's trained on the entirety of the internet. And we know that the entirety of the internet has some very dark places, right? And that's not something that most business owners will look at. So a couple things. Look at building your own foundational models, right? And then deploying those models, right? And just look at ways to analyze the data.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask James this question. The adoption curve for AI has been instantaneous and it's been massive. And everybody's jumping in. How can you, as a business owner, how can these people in the audience here find a competitive advantage with AI when so many of their competitors are already using it? Because it's like, hey, you better jump on board or you're gonna get left behind. But in this ecosystem of everybody's doing it, how do you set yourself apart?
How many of you ever been to Costco's? Raise your hand. How many of you buy the hot dog at $1.50? How many of you buy the chicken at $4.95? How many of you went specifically to buy the chicken to get the hot dog and walk out with $200 in your cart? That's ChatGPT. You must go with a laser focused. What I am seeing out there is that 98% of the people using it are getting unhappy with it because they're getting lost in the thick wood of what's going on. Think of it as Costco's. If you go to Costco's with a shopping list and you stick to the shopping list, which none of us can do, you come away with things that you don't know what you're going to do it with. Now, if you go home and you realize that you've got zucchini and broccoli and you hate both of them, but the phone rang and Costco said, "Hi, I saw what you bought. Let me tell you how to prepare it specifically for your family." That's the application used for ChatGPT. Let me put it to you a different way. Whatever it is that you want to do, ChatGPT can do it if you give it what's called the proper prompt. And it's all about the prompt. And if you don't articulate it quickly, this is what you get. You get an assistant who comes to you with a medical degree, a law degree, an accounting degree, has gone to 17 different colleges, has spent their entire academic life learning everything there is to know about everything on the planet, has no idea how to run a business, has no emotion, and doesn't check its own work. That's ChatGPT. However, because you've hired this assistant, that assistant starts to learn. And so here's your first tip. If you're using ChatGPT or Jasper or Claude or anything else, and you start a conversation, stick with that conversation, because the moment you open a new conversation, it starts all over again. It doesn't learn about you. Number 2, have a laser focus. I'm getting the $1.50 hot dog. But by the way, with the hot dog, I need some mustard and some relish and some other things, so that goes to your list. And the closer you stay to that core end result, your competitive advantage remains there. But if you start wandering around and you forget why you were going there, you'll get lost, you'll get frustrated, and you'll walk away. So once again, stop trying to sell your big idea to small-minded people. You want to focus on your big idea and find the people that are willing to pay for it. And ChatGPT can help you refine it, find your target market, create the avatar, do the deliverables, do the back-end analytics, do everything that's necessary to ramp up the ROI, the return on your ideas. And that's what ChatGPT is great at. It's a great assistant used properly.
Excellent stuff. I know Martez and I had a conversation about it, and so did James and I, about starting different chats, different subjects, and I was like, well, I thought I was doing a good job kind of segregating them in ChatGPT, and they're like, no, because it doesn't learn you. And if you're going to really speak in your own voice and the spirit in which you do it, you need to make sure that you're keeping all those together. So thank you for that little bit of information, because I bet most people in the room didn't know that. So, Alan, in business, people are always trying to figure out how to engage with target audiences. How can ChatGPT help salespeople, help executives, small businesses collect data, create content that's going to resonate with their audience? So I know there's a lot of people in this room for whom that is very relevant.
All right, so I'm going to echo the comments about being laser focused, because the riches are in the niches. Very simple. Garbage in, garbage out. Now, just for me to take the temperature of the room, would you mind raising your hand if you are currently using ChatGPT in just one way, shape, or form? Awesome. Okay, so a good amount of the room. Now, would you raise your hand if you are currently using it to either write emails, blog posts, or advertisements? Cool. For those of you who aren't, I just want to set the record straight. And if you're wondering, hey, this ChatGPT thing sounds cool, but what is it really? Just think of it as an artificial intelligence tool that helps you write, think, and solve problems faster than before. Now, that last part is important because people spend money to solve problems in the business world. For example, all of us today traded our time and our money to be here to solve the problem of, number one, learning about artificial intelligence, and number two, growing and expanding our network. So if we're going to reverse engineer this and we're going to figure out some target customers and gather some data, I'm going to give you a 3-step sequence that will completely change the game. Feel free to write this down. You can go on ChatGPT and say, what are 5 problems that cause somebody to consider purchasing blank service? For example, my background's in the automotive industry. I can say, what are 5 problems that cause somebody to consider purchasing a new car? But you see, sales is all about creating urgency and giving somebody a reason to do something. So what I can then do is follow that prompt up, hence the term prompt sequence, and say, well, what are the consequences of not solving each of those problems? So now I know if I meet somebody who has that problem, I can respond by saying, hey, you probably should not wait, otherwise blank can happen. And then what I can do to gather target data is I can say, who is most likely to experience each of those problems? So now I have an audience, problem, and consequences. And for those of you who raised your hands earlier and are already using this for emails and blogs, ask yourself this. How much better would that article be if you said, create an article to an audience who experiences blank problems, stress the urgency of solving said problems, otherwise blank can happen, and tailor it towards this audience. That right there changes the game, and that is exactly what happens when you get laser focused on doing so.
That's good stuff. And just to take it a step farther too, Alan, my experience, I've used ChatGPT for probably 6 months now, is the less information you put in, the more garbage that comes out. The more information you can give it, the specificity that you're talking about, I will always endeavor to write, say, a paragraph if I'm needing, and I'm not talking about writing a book per se, I'm just talking about, presentation or a blog or whatever it might be. The more information you put in there, the more specific you are, the better it comes out on the other end. James, I want to ask you this, and we had this conversation about, and it was referenced earlier about like cloning voices. One of my clients is a union, and I create content for them on a YouTube channel. And our editor recently told me, I have cloned your voice and Bert, the host, his voice. I do the promos, he does the actual stories. And I'm like, that's great. And he played it to me, and it was our voices, but it was very low energy, and it didn't have inflections, and so it was clearly my voice, but it didn't sound anything like me. And I said, I'm pretty sure that in a month, 2 or less, because things are happening, as I said earlier, by the week, it's gonna nail that inflection, and it's gonna get it right. And so I spent 30 or 45 minutes extolling the virtues of, wow, that'll be so much easier. I won't have to go to his office and bring my microphone and all that kind of stuff. It'll be right off the script. And then I thought, what's going to keep somebody from cloning my voice and have me saying something horrific? And everybody says, Rob Johnson just said he was the worst guy ever, or he's committed a crime, or this or that. So that's the other side of it. We're sitting here talking about all the brave new world that we're living in right now relative to AI, but you also have to worry about the people that are there using it for purposes that are less than pure. So James, that's a long question, that's a story and it's a question. How leery should people be, and what can we do to protect ourselves, even knowing that this has a huge benefit to us in a business sense?
You remember the term catfish? Where people would put up someone else's picture and pretend to use that for dating. As a single guy during COVID, I was on dating sites and I'd start to talk to several women, and suddenly their grandparents were sick and they needed to come to the United States, and they were falling in love with me. They had no idea who I was. And I started to do my homework, and I started to realize how many of these catfish were out there. Now, the catfish is AI generated. And it's so good that you don't know that it's not a real person behind it. That's the bad side of it. And the bad guys are using this a whole lot more than the good guys, because they have figured out how to monetize it. So how do you protect yourself? You protect yourself by making yourself competitively different, so that if I say something or I do something, somebody would know that Jim never said that. That Jim would never represent that, because I have built up my brand, I have built up my reputation. But if you look at the way it's evolving, to Rob's point, they've already got the imagery down. In fact, I gave a talk a couple of weeks ago and I said, the next thing that should come out is a AI way to distinguish if that image was computer generated, and that's now out there. Somebody else has come out with the software to tell you whether that's a real image or not. So the good guys and the bad guys are always going to be going back and forth, but it's no different than never put in information that you don't want somebody to know. Always have passwords or safe words that you can't guess. And be diligent, don't be blind. This is an extraordinarily powerful tool, and it's no different than anything else. In the hands of the good guys, it has a purpose. In the hands of the bad guys, it has a way of doing terrible things. So you have to be aware of your own surroundings.
Thank you. What I want to do right now, I want to ask a few more questions, and then I want to allow some of you to ask questions, things that are on top of mind for all of you. You can ask whoever you want to. But as I was preparing for this, I had questions I wanted to ask these folks specifically. And then I was like, ChatGPT, I'm moderating a panel tonight. I've got subject matter experts talking about ChatGPT and AI. What questions would you ask? And so I had ChatGPT help me ask questions of the people who are experts on ChatGPT. And the first one is, what is AI? And I think we're well past that right now, so we'll move on. I want to ask you, Vanessa, if you're comfortable answering this, or anybody who is, how can we ensure that AI-generated content adheres to ethical standards and doesn't spread misinformation? You touched upon it a little bit there, Jim, but I also think that, is there a way to make sure it's legit, and to also, misinformation's out there even before AI was here, and now it's here, and it's only probably going to become more rampant. Any thoughts there?
That's what I'm saying, is you have to have a subject matter expert review it, because the misinformation's in there, it gets analyzed, and then it's getting spit back out and things like that. So that's the only thing I can say. I'm a very different man.
So let me give you the way we do it, and feel free to use this. After we generate something in AI, if you've ever done it, you notice when you copy it and put it into a Word document, it's got a funky formatting, and then you get rid of the formatting, you gotta reformat it. Don't do that. Take it from AI, whatever AI you're using, and put it into Grammarly. Let Grammarly clean it up in terms of the proper utilization. Once you've done that, take it and put it back into ChatGPT and translate it into another language. Doesn't matter what language. But for those of you that know about languages, you know when you're going from English to French or English to German and coming back again, it gets rid of all the iterations. It cleans it up. And so our process is very simple. Do it in chat, move it to Grammarly. Go from Grammarly back to chat. Go from chat into a foreign language, bring it back into chat, and you've got something that you can pretty much use and bank on. The other thing is Grammarly has a plagiarism checker. And as part of that, you can run the plagiarism to see if in fact it came from somebody else.
The other thing I wanted to add is you should always change about a third of the content that you're getting from ChatGPT. Because if someone else put the same FAQ on their website and they just took it for that, then you're going to end up, your site's going to start going down. So that's something else that we always make sure to do. I know it takes work, but that's why it doesn't go for 12 hours, it goes to 4 hours instead of 0. For plagiarism.
Yes.
And I would recommend that anyway. I mean, this is a great tool. It's going to save you lots of time. It's going to be very specific in what it can do to help you, but my experience using it for content generation all the time is it cranks something out for me when I use it, and I do change about probably a third of it. I put it maybe in the voice that it needs to be in. It may not be exactly on point the way I want it to be, and that's probably a product of me maybe not inputting enough information. So don't think that you can just have it spit this out and cut and paste it and you're done. Because if you do, that's going to be a huge mistake as well. Martez, I don't know if you have given any thought to, and this is from ChatGPT, my friend that helped me come up with these questions. What measures can be implemented to ensure that there's fairness and inclusivity in AI-generated content? Because you mentioned, and so did Jim, that you need to be putting in all this information and it needs to be consistent and it needs to be constant to really capture your voice. So what can you do in that regard?
Excellent question. One of the things that we're looking at is giving content owners the ability to opt out of having their data included in our model. This is something that we would like to see across the industry, regulations put in place, because right now I think we operate from a perspective of how things used to be, right? So you have Google, you have web crawlers, and when we typically think about web crawlers, we're thinking about it's crawling for data and it's trying to determine how to better rank content, right? Well, now we currently have web crawlers, and the purpose of the web crawlers is to get your content and be included in these models, right? And so there's a free fall right now, and the companies that get there first will generally own the data. But as far as keeping the data safe, we would like to see a way to opt out, right? To be able to, hey, I don't want my data to be included in this model, right? And you should have that right, quite frankly.
Keep in mind that chat is just one of those tools out there. There's other ones, but ChatGPT was based on data from 2021 back and was not connected to the internet. Microsoft invested $10 billion right up front just to kind of put some chump change into it to get it rolling. And they decided that they would allow Bing to be part of ChatGPT. That lasted about 2 weeks. And then they pulled it back out. So to my knowledge, the only one that is live internet is the Google product. And the Google product has a little bit different. It's better at crunching numbers than ChatGPT, but it's not as good as the writing. So you got to decide what it is. Remember, we're talking about Costco's. You got the hot dog, you got the chicken. Why are you going there? Well, I need to do a PowerPoint. Okay, we haven't talked about that. But you can have the whole PowerPoint done through AI. You can create audio-visual films from AI. So don't just limit your thinking to copywriting. I did a dinner for somebody who was a vegan, and I'm not. And I didn't know what to fix. I went to chat and we planned the menu. Literally from start to finish. We can use chat as if it is, the way I described it, your unbelievable assistant who's there 24/7, doesn't take a break, doesn't want a raise, doesn't show up late, but has no idea how to run a business, has no experience, has no emotion, and often doesn't check its work. But the more you train it, the better. And with that, just so you know, we've announced a 7-week course to help you guys monetize this, and it's how to use AI to create competitive differentiation for your business. So it's very laser focused. We started on Thursday. It's for 2 hours a week, and our goal at the end of the 7 weeks is for you to complete your project for your business and get you a 10x return on the investment. And we're so sure that that'll happen, we have a 100% money back guarantee. But we're doing that because we know what can be done when you go into the Costco's with your shopping list and come out with exactly what you went in for and don't get distracted.
The other thing I think that's important to know is, right, the ability to be concise. You can tell them how many words that you would like the answer to be, because what happens is, because it has so much knowledge, it spits out a lot of information, and it could look like word stuffing with Google when it gets analyzed. So that's another thing to think about, is making sure, I just want to say that.
And the money back guarantee on the class was Jim's idea, it wasn't AI's idea, so congratulations on that one. Alan, let me ask you this, and this is going to be ChatGPT's last question, and then I'm going to turn it over to the audience for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. What do you envision for the future of AI? I know that requires a crystal ball that many of you don't have, and everything you're imagining, and you guys are so close to this on a daily basis, so it's what's happening right now. But what do you see for the future, especially when it comes to what appear to be, I don't want to say unlimited capabilities, but very vast capabilities?
I think we're at the tip of the iceberg. I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what this technology could do for us. And again, you've got the good side, you've got the bad side. But I think we would all agree that on a daily basis, someone's come out with an application or somebody's made an addition to it that literally has changed or made it easier or made it faster than it was before. And it is very difficult to keep up. And once we really start to harness the energy and you have enough people using it, it will go up 10 times, 20 times faster than it's going right now.
Well, I think from a healthcare perspective, which is our main focus at Care Vitality, is that eventually what it's going to end up doing is it's going to answer the questions as if it was the nurse, and then just bring the problem areas back down to what really needs to be looked at by the nurse. So it's really going to optimize people's abilities, what they're doing their work on. So I think it's going to cut a lot of people because of the fact that you can have people that aren't really people asking the questions, talking on the phone. They had this at the big healthcare conference where you think you're talking to someone, they got the visual of the person's not really the nurse, pulling the data. And it doesn't have to be just in healthcare, this is going to be anywhere. So I think, yeah, it's absolutely the tip of the iceberg. But then you're going to be able to be more efficient as an organization because of the fact that you've got these people that you're not paying as much, you're not really paying that much, maybe licensing from somebody to help, but it's going to dramatically make people more efficient. You need it to stay competitive.
I predict a world that's essentially, controlled and I don't want to say ruled by AI, but there will solely be a multitude of AI bots running, a ton of different functions that right now humans are doing. I see corporations, billion-dollar corporations that have like maybe 10 to 15 people, and the rest is more or less managed by AI, right? As these tools become more developed, you won't need a marketing manager. You won't need a social media manager. You won't need a finance manager, right? You just need a CEO and a few other folks that can kind of manage the workflows. So I see a future where AI is sort of dominating everything.
I just want to say one thing. An example of it is Northwestern Hospital. When you're calling, you've got issues with your stomach or GERD or things like that. You think you're talking to someone, and all the automation on the website, it's not. It's actually AI asking you the questions, trying to determine what's going on, giving you the schedule, having to schedule, and it's all AI. So I mean, this is one case example.
So I want you all to think about this. Things have never moved this fast ever in history, and they will also never move this slow again. We're 100% just getting started. So think of it like this. ChatGPT is the best employee that you don't have to pay for. Plain and simple. And every business has two things in common. They all want to raise revenue and they want to lower expenses. So I'll let you two connect the dots there. Now, are the robots coming for your jobs? They have been. The truth is, the best way to have any sort of job security is make yourself valuable. Learn this skill, stay on top of it before it topples you, and one thing that will never go away is people do not buy from brands. They buy from people that represent brands. Automation seems great. Artificial intelligence seems great. But think of this. The last time you were frustrated and had an issue and you needed to call a support line and you had to press 1 for whatever language, press 2 for whatever your problem is, and then still have to sit on hold for 5 minutes, what do? You press 0 to talk to an operator right now. So I'm a firm believer that when the majority of the market zigs, there's a huge opportunity to zag. I'm not telling you anything that nobody doesn't already know. A lot of times the service, when we go anywhere nowadays, is pretty rough. Which means if you get service that's really good, you're not tipping 20%. You're tipping 30, 35, 40, 50%, just to say, hey, thank you for actually doing your job. So I truly believe, yes, will it put people out of work? Absolutely. But for every one person it puts out of work that is forced to put on that entrepreneur hat, it's never been easier to start a business by collecting data on target customers, identifying pain point, and doing all of these things utilizing the best employee that you don't have to pay for. So it's too early to tell, but it's not going away. It was released in November, and now it's taken the internet and the world by storm. So every single day, we're just learning more and more about it.
And what's nice is it even gives you like a competitor analysis for you too, and sometimes it can even pick up pricing, and it just makes things a lot quicker.
You remember way back when there was a thing called a library? And you would go there to do your research, and sometimes you'd meet your girlfriend or boyfriend there and you get distracted. Think about that library in your pocket. And I hear people say, well, this scares me. It shouldn't scare you because you've been pouring your heart out to Siri and Alexis for a long time now. That's AI. We have grown up using that. So start to harness that power. Start to put that power in your back pocket. It's there for you. But do it in bite-sized pieces. Look, you got 4 people up here that are quote-unquote experts. I'll challenge all 4 of us. We're not experts. We've just been doing it longer and learned more. But every single day we get blown away by something going, wow, I never thought of that, or I didn't know it would do that. Real short one for you. I was getting my annual exam, and I noticed my doctor was not her perky self, and I thought it was me. I said, what's going on? She said, oh, I'm having a problem with my 2 daughters. I can't communicate with them. I've been trying to write this letter to them, and I can't tell them how much I love them, and I'm really struggling with it because I just don't write well. I said, let me pull out my phone, and let's have ChatGPT write it for you. I'm not exaggerating. While she's giving me the exam, ChatGPT is writing the most gorgeous letter to it. She was crying. She couldn't wait to send it. And she goes, what's ChatGPT? And I said, you're a doctor and you have never heard of this before? She says, I'm a doctor. I spend most of my time in medicine. And I started to explain ChatGPT, etc. So once again, do not limit your thinking to I only need it for this or only need it for that. It is amenable to